Hi, I'm Laura Faye, the host of Wytpods, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Paul from Klover Products. Paul, welcome. I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. Paul, let's jump right into it because I'm really eager to learn all about you. So why don't you share with me a little bit about yourself and your journey, how you got to Klover Products?
Okay. It's been quite an interesting experience, to be quite honest. I am a licensed mechanical engineer, analytical and so forth. But the company I worked for 20 years ago was bought out by a large foreign conglomerate, and I knew it wasn't to be good long term. So I resigned and started a little engineering consulting company in 2004, and we still have that company operating, but I'm doing much less with it since Klover Products has started. So in 2011, Sports contacted one of my engineering customers and asked them if they were interested in making a parabolic microphone because they weren't satisfied with the products that they were using. Of course, my customer comes to me and asks if I know anything about parabolic microphones, and I told him not a thing, but it's never stopped me before. And we built a prototype, and Fox Sports tested the prototypes at the end of the 2011-2012 NFL season. Came back in February and said, we want 50 for next season. So it was like, oh wow, what do we do now? It wasn't part of his staging company, and it wasn't part of my engineering background. So we formed Klover Products out of that request in order to produce the parabolic microphones that Fox had requested. And then as time went on, the initial plan was I would handle the day-to-day operations, and he would be handling the sales and marketing since he was already involved with the sports networks and so forth. But in 2018, my wife and I were able to buy him out. So now the corporation is all my wife and I. So it's been a very interesting trip. I've been, on the sidelines of NFL games and the dugouts of MLB baseball games. Been at professional boxing matches. So
Wow.
lots and lots of things that I never would have imagined growing up in a very small town in the middle of Iowa.
So you're a good person to know, right? With all these perks. I'm joking, but that's excellent. That's excellent. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Klover Products?
Okay. Well, the main product we're focusing on is primarily parabolic microphones, which is where we started. Parabolic microphones are the big plastic dishes you see sound guys holding on the sidelines of football games. Those are what most people are familiar with. They're used in baseball, basketball, trying to get into cricket. They've used at rugby tournaments. They've been used at I think 5 Super Bowls now, the World Series, the Olympics, every Olympics since Rio, the World Cup soccer matches in Qatar. That was last year. They're used very widely, sports and television. They're also used in security type of situations while you're trying to capture what somebody is saying from a great distance away. So we work with SWAT teams and FBI and things like that. So it's a very interesting product that has a broad applications, and that's my challenge as an engineer, is to put on my sales and marketing hat and try to find new markets and new uses for them.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. You deal with a lot of high-level companies, industries, a little bit of everything it seems you dabble in. That's really, really interesting. You must meet so many people along the way, too. People you never thought you would. That's so interesting. I
Yeah.
love what.
I've called up the vice president of Fox Sports, and he knows me and will answer the phone. So again,
That's
not something I would have expected 20 years ago.
wow, that's great. So if I can say, to you, can you just tell him to have a New York team win the World Series, please?
I
Come on,
can't I can't
show.
do much on that regard.
I know. I'm joking. So what challenges have you faced along the way? I know you mentioned one, with the sales and the marketing and coming up with new things. But other than that, what challenges have you faced and what has been your most effective marketing strategy?
Well, yes, as far as challenges, it's always a an educational challenge trying to potential customers to consider other uses for parabolic microphones other than for sports broadcasts. So
Right,
everybody is pigeonholed product in one area and have to constantly work to explain or educate people on other uses for them. We're trying to get them to use um, in like news gathering instead of sports. That's the kind of educational process that we're constantly battling. As far as has worked in sales and marketing end, the broadcast world is kind of different than most markets because the networks don't want to staff up or buy all the equipment that they need for every situation. So they use freelancers for the majority of their actual workforce. They lease most of their equipment because they might have, for example, in the NFL, they might have 4 football games one weekend and 9 the next weekend. They
right,
can't staff up and buy all the equipment for the weekend they have 9. So most of our business is actually with leasing companies that then lease the equipment to Fox and ESPN and so on and so forth. So very same equipment that Fox is using, Green Bay on this weekend, CBS might be using in Minneapolis the next Sunday because these dealers full of equipment are shared by the networks.
right.
So because of that, word of mouth has really been our best friend because the people that used our parabolic and going back to Green Bay, next weekend ESPN comes in with a different set of producers and directors and so forth. And they'll say, hey, used these parabolics from Klover last week and they were really great. You should get them. So word of mouth has really been primary marketing, sales and marketing in sports world. And we are, even though we're a very small company, we've pretty much taken over sports world as far as long range audio capture. I think we're almost to the point where people are saying, go get a Klover instead of go get a parabolic.
Wow, that is really, really great. That's a huge accomplishment. So, what do you think it is about your products that got you to where you are? What differentiates your products from others?
Well, I'd like to hope it's at least partially, my engineering approach to things. Fox said we want 50 for next year. We didn't build 50 copies of the prototype. Met with the audio people and say, okay, what's on your wish list? If we're doing this starting from scratch, accommodate as many requests and niceties into the design as possible. So we've things like use quick release connectors so you can set up and tear down in just a matter of seconds. There's not nuts or bolts and screws to deal with.
Right,
We've also been very concerned with modularity. So if something does get broken, and if you watch football much, you've probably seen Parabolic might get run over on the sidelines. They get run over almost every week. Somebody gets run over on the sidelines. We've made them very modular so they can be, repaired and back on the field as quick as possible. And the other thing is I've, tried very hard to treat customers the way I'd want to be treated. When first shipped out our very first units, were damaged in shipping. I got on an airplane and flew out to Denver and fixed units in the hotel room and, a couple miles from Mile High Stadium. And that sort of service is not common anymore, not these days. So it definitely caught Fox's attention, and over time, other companies have seen that we work very hard to service our company, or if they need a part right away, we'll ship it out and then worry about the placement part or worry about the payment later. So try very hard to be customer oriented, and I think that's gone a long ways toward our success.
absolutely. I can understand why. That They say you learn more about who somebody or a company in this case is when things go bad versus when they are good.
Right.
So I think that is a testament to you being there through the good and the bad and making things right, which is so important and gives you so much credibility. If I had a crystal ball looking into the future, what do you see for your company? Are you there already? Is there more for you?
To be honest, we have almost reached the point of saturation within the sports world, doing, replacements and repairs and things like that. Majority of the parabolic mics that you see at football games are ours. So that market is definitely slowing down. We're not selling as many new products as we have in the past. That's forcing us to try to get into new markets like cricket or be other sports that could use the on-field sounds that are. And a lot of people just assume that parabolic microphones, because we see them on a football field every weekend, that they're used across the world, but they're not. It's very much a U.S. only phenomenon. So there's a huge potential to get into sports in other countries, and that's what trying. Again, as a small company, it's hard to do, but we're working very hard to do that. We'd certainly like to, double or triple the size of the company in the next 5 years.
Well, I have a funny feeling, Paul, that you will achieve that goal. It's been such a pleasure hearing about your journey, all of the success that you've attained, the people that you work with, the quality of your product. I know that you will reach every single goal that you set. I have no doubt. So I want to thank you for all of your time today and sharing that with me.
Problem. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much.